And then we've got, what's this one? I don't know. This looks like a Brontosaurus, Brachiosaurus, something like that.
Hmm.
Okay. This one. We got Stegosaurus today.
Yeah.
Stegosaurus. Audio listeners, I've got dinosaurs with me. And
Toy
then this one
dinosaurs.
is a
Oh,
yeah,
that's
it's
big.
massive. This one. That's a big
Yeah.
one. That's a Triceratops.
Triceratops,
Made in China.
obviously.
Okay. What's your
Obviously.
stance on dinosaurs, bro?
Yes. So they are actually haram, in my opinion.
Oh no.
Yeah. I was just gonna say they're very interesting in terms of like when you're in school, you like seem to kind of learn a lot about them in a way, but there's a lot that's not known, and I don't know, just something weird going on there, something interesting. But yeah, if they, I mean, for example, the fact that they're supposed to be reptiles, but then they're not reptiles, they're like birds or whatever it is, or birds and reptiles are the same thing, or they had feathers when we think they were more like lizards. All that stuff is interesting. Like, why do we think that when it's not true? Is it just a delay in scientific discovery, or I don't know? That's quite fascinating.
No, I don't know. I don't think they were lizards. I think they were their own thing. There were lizards among them, but I don't think they're classified as lizards, even though they kind of look like lizards.
Yeah, I mean,
Interesting, huh?
I need to refresh my memory, but I think like what we call dinosaurs. There's like three big families of animals that we call dinosaurs. Like there were the ones who were feathered ones, which were are they called ceropods or something like that? So they're
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah, words like that. Yeah.
yeah. So they're like the ones like the flying ones and the ones that like T Rex and stuff. These all are in that group. Then there's another group which is like, for example, the Brachiosaurus and stuff. That's like different. Like maybe Brachiosaurus actually
Mm.
was more reptilian in terms of its skin and all that. And then the third category, I'm just throwing a third category out there, which is like stuff that is more neither of those two, like a mammoth or like mammals. Yeah, mammals, I suppose. Yeah. And then
Yeah.
there was even like ones that lived in the ocean as well, which would they be the second category or a fourth category? I don't know. So there's a lot of things that we could just call dinosaurs, and I think I don't know. It's like a whole different world, seems like. But then again, it's not a whole different world. It's just different animals compared to the animals we have now. But
Absolutely.
But I remember when I was reading about this like a year ago or something, it's like there does seem to be potential for some agenda out there, something like evolutionary agenda or something. And that's maybe why we learn a lot about dinosaurs compared to other stuff as children, even though they don't even exist anymore. So why is that? Like, yeah, maybe there's no
'Cause
agenda
it's
there.
like because it's like real life Pokemon, bro. It scratches the itch. It's the collectathon itch that kids have. That's
Yeah,
the
I mean,
wisdom behind their creation,
kids
bro. It's
certainly get into it.
crazy.
They certainly enjoy it, and yeah,
Yeah, man.
my son doesn't even know
What's
about them. I don't think. I don't think he's been exposed.
what? I've had like 7 years of dinos, bro. When one kid gets like bored of it, the next kid becomes interested. So now Khalil is just dinosaur crazy, and he's only 1 years old. He just loves dinos. You know,
Yeah.
it
Um,
is what it is.
I guess my kids are kind of into. They're not into cars. They just play with cars because that's what I gave them. What else?
Wow.
I mean, my eldest is just into like reading, bro. To be honest, he's into books and maps and stuff like that. He's a geek, I suppose.
Okay.
Mashallah.
I can't believe you could حرم فيهم, bro. Could حرم فيهم بزاف بزاف. There's a whole
No.
world of dinosaurs out
Oh, right. I mean, I'm not
there.
against it. I'm not against it per se. Um,
Yeah.
he likes building roads and yeah, yeah. But
All right. Fair
books are
enough.
amazing,
Building
brother.
roads. Get them dinosaur books, bro. There's
Dinosaur
plenty, I'm
book.
sure.
No, like if I had to choose books, yeah, I'm not gonna pick dinosaur books. I'm gonna pick like there's so many good books out there. I mean, I think the books that I like him to read are mostly Arabic. In Arabic, there is that book we talked about before, the Tafsir book. So
Uh,
those kind of ones. That yeah. Then there's like yeah, if you want like science ones, I don't know. I just like him to learn about the prophets and Yeah. I don't know. Yeah.
It's okay. May Allah aid us, bro.
I
May Allah
mean,
aid us.
I mean. Okay.
Speaking of dinosaurs,
Okay.
I don't know. I'm
How are
gonna
you
make
going
a
to link
segue.
this?
You ever heard of the Spinosaurus?
Okay. Yeah.
Big one. Got a
Hmm.
spine on its back.
Hmm.
Well, in Jurassic Park 3, it looks a
Hmm.
particular way. But then,
Yeah.
like a few years ago, they found a fossil that made it look completely different, with like a big fat tail, and these things are always evolving, right? No
Oh,
pun
really?
intended. But do you know where they found it? They
Hmm.
found the fossil in Morocco. Yeah,
Ah, okay.
that's the segue.
Okay. It's a
Um,
good segue.
so how was
Um,
Morocco?
yeah, man. A lot of people asking me about that. I went to Morocco for 1 week, and it's probably 3 weeks ago at this point. I went. I
And it
flew
was the
direct.
best week of your life.
It was good overall, man. It was very good. I was there for 1 week. I was in Tanja. I just flew straight to Tanja. Tanja has a very small airport, but it's like an international airport, but it's very small. It reminds me of the Tlemcen airport in Algeria. It's like it's new, pretty new and small. And it's like the kind of thing where from plane to leaving the airport, it's like 5 minutes, because it's just so small, not many flights coming through. Um, when I got to passport control, I gave my passport and the guy said, where are you from? I said, well, Britain, obviously. That's what my passport says.
Obviously.
Don't ask me these questions. And he's like, la la al-asl, al-asl. And I was like, oh, Jazairi. And then he's like, oh, okay. I was kind of avoiding saying that, but it's fine in the end. It's fine.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, then I came through, and yes, the what's it called, luggage control thing, was it the luggage reclaim, baggage reclaim? It was like Algeria, bro. It was just like, except the difference was in Algeria, the people that are picking up the arrivals, they're allowed into the baggage reclaim. So it's just like you
Right.
you get to the baggage reclaim and your family's right there, like yeah, it's just packed with people. It wasn't like that here, but it was like it was a bit disorganized. Like, imagine the baggage is coming off onto the belt, and the belt's like just not set up right, so it's getting blocked, and then
Yeah.
it just starts building up, and there's no staff there like to fix it, and so then we have to start doing it, like unblocking it and allowing it to move around, and then one of the staff realizes, okay, there's like a blockage, so then he has to just stand there permanently, just making sure the luggage can move across and it's not getting blocked. So I thought that just kind of reminded me of Algeria. Like, that's the kind of thing I would see in Algeria, where it's not been thought out 100% very well. But anyway, it was fine. Um, so there, then I came out very smooth. Came out. I went straight to a restaurant. I'm trying to give you chronological my discovery of the
Yeah, yeah,
place,
yeah.
right?
Oh, yeah. Go for it.
So I came out. I met my business partner Mohammed. He has a car, so he brought his car from the UK, so that's handy. So then I went outside the airport, and the weather was just amazing. Spring in the Mediterranean spring, nothing quite like it, man. So
Hmm.
it was sunny. It was nice. Lots of greenery. As we were driving, there's just a lot of greenery. More than I'm used to in Algeria. Because where I'm from in Algeria, I realized, for those that don't know, the way climate generally works in the world is along the, latitude lines that go around the world from like east to west or west to east. Anywhere across the same line will have a similar climate generally. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, Tanja is like the northeast North Africa goes. And where I'm from in Algeria, the west of Algeria, it's quite south. Like, it dips inwards a bit, which means Tanja's going to be way more southern Spain, European Mediterranean type. And where I'm from in Algeria, it's going to be more getting a little bit closer to desert climate, like midway between desert and Mediterranean. So it was a lot greener than what I'm used to. But also, I've only ever been to Algeria in the summer. So the summer is, people might think that's the greenest time, but it's not the greenest. The spring is the greenest. So It was very green, very pleasant and very green. Lots of, you could tell they've planted a lot of trees and they've been watering it actively and stuff. And then we went to a restaurant straight away. We went to eat on the beach. There's like a place on the beach. It was quite a fancy place. This kind of place. There were a lot of locals there. It was not. It didn't feel like a touristy thing, but it
Yeah.
was fancy, you know. So we went there, and I don't know. I just got a pizza. I just thought, okay, let me get a pizza. Bro, the pizza, first bite, I'm like next level. This is next level. Like the,
Really?
yeah, yeah. Like the ingredients individually tasted like top tier, you know?
Nice.
Like, I can't remember what was on it, but there was like olives, there was chicken, there was cheese. Like, it was all top notch ingredients individually. And I wasn't even looking for that. I wasn't judging the pizza. I was just eating the pizza, but it popped out at me like, this is good food, you know? Um, the prices were like, that was my first experience with prices, and it was like a bit more expensive than I would have expected. But then again, maybe it was a fancy place. But anyway,
Mm.
that was interesting experience, and yeah, and that was the thing, man. Like, even at the passport control, and then with the waiter at the restaurant, like, I could just speak to people. I
Yeah.
pretty much spoke to them in my, dialect, from my Algerian dialect, which is very close because, like I said, I'm from the west of Algeria, which is close to Tanja and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was just talking to the waiter like freely and just using the words I would usually use, which just felt so good, man. Like a week of just doing that, it was just so good because in Turkey, obviously Turkish doesn't come natural to me. And then even in Turkey, when I'm speaking Arabic to, let's say, a Syrian, I can't use my Algerian dialect. I have to use a hybrid, disgusting hybrid Arabic. So, yeah,
What about
yes.
your business partners? How do they communicate there? Is it
Oh,
Arabic as
bro,
well?
he's like full just tourist mode, just speaking English to everyone.
Really? Right. Okay.
But there's a lot. That's the thing because you know this, I'm sure. Like, there's quite a decent amount of tourists going through Tanja, so there's a lot of English there. Like, people know a decent amount of English. Obviously, also younger people around the world, they know a decent amount of English. Apart from Turkey, Turkey just no one speaks anything other than Turkish.
Yeah.
So yeah, so he's getting by with English. Obviously, it's not always doesn't always work for him. For example, if he gets a phone call from someone, I don't know, wants to get maintenance done or something fixed or a delivery or something,
Mm.
he struggle with that. But when it's face to face, English is kind of it's pretty decent. It goes quite a long way. And then that was the other thing I noticed as I'm like looking around the streets. There's a lot of French, like French written places, like names of shops and stuff. Not just that everything is written in Arabic and then French, but also that there's a French style to certain things. There's
Hmm.
French, for example, there's that food like French tacos. You've heard of that?
No, but
Okay. It's like it's not like Mexican tacos, it's another thing, okay? But it's a French thing. So like there are restaurants there selling this French tacos thing. Or for example, sauce algérienne.
yes.
Yeah, so that's something we don't even have in Algeria, but they have it in France. So they
Oh,
have
you're
that.
talking about this thing, like this thing. Where are we?
Yeah, that's
Huh?
French tacos, yeah.
Oh, right. They
So
call
that's
it
a
something
French
else
thing,
in
but they have restaurants selling that in Morocco, in Tanja. And then they have
uh,
um, you know, French stuff, bro. Like patisserie, for example, they have millefeuille. They have typical French things.
yeah,
So I
yeah.
didn't expect that, to be honest. I thought it was more Spanish influenced, or maybe I thought it was more just not that influenced by colonizers. But it seemed similar level to Algeria, to what I know of Algeria, Yanni. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, which obviously for me it's a bit easy because it means that if I don't know a word in Arabic, I can use a French word. Yeah, what was I saying? Oh yeah, I was saying about French. Yeah, if I don't know a word in Arabic, I can use it in French, and vice
Yeah.
versa. So that's good for me, but I just didn't really expect that. Yeah, and then the thing is, bro, like naturally, of course, I'm like gonna compare it to Algeria, but I haven't been to Algeria for 7 years, and I haven't spent much time in Algeria in bigger cities, so it's hard to compare, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, the thing is, I'm pretty sure in Algeria it's not like this, and probably because there's not much tourism. But it's just like when you go to a restaurant, when you go to the hotel that we were in, and these kind of things, the level of service is good. It's like people are trained that okay, we're serving people. You know, we're a receptionist or I'm a waiter or whatever, and I'm doing stuff for you. You know,
Yeah.
so and they were always pretty good, pretty very polite and just pretty efficient and getting stuff done. Like in our hotel room, the guy had to fix the AC or something, and yeah, he just like was very polite, and then he came in, he just did his thing, he came out, like everything was pretty smooth. People might think this is like little detail and dumb, but I know from living in different countries that differences can come up in these kind of things, these kind of areas, you know. Like in other countries, they might, you know, ask for a cup of tea and lunch before they get to work or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
So so yeah, bro. I mean, actually, the hotel we were staying in, it was like a hotel apartment thing. It was phenomenal. Like the cleaners, for example, that come every day, they were just so thorough and fast and efficient and very nice. And they had these Nespresso pods. Okay, so
Hmm.
they give you some Nespresso pods, but then we used them. So then I told the cleaner like, can we have more? No, my partner asked her, like in English, but she didn't speak any English. So she just gave him two. And then I told her, like, can we have more? And then she said, to be honest, I'm not allowed to give you, but like she said, حشمت منه وغير عطيته هيك. So it's like, wholesome kind of people. But yeah, very good. Um, and then the food was just good, bro. Like you can just call. The hotel has a restaurant, and so I was getting just like lunch sent up and stuff every day, and the food's just top quality, bro. Like the olives, amazing, and they have all kinds of different food. They have Moroccan food. They have other stuff. They have stuff like, again, comparing to Algerian smaller city, they would not have smoked salmon. Okay, when Tanja has smoked
Right.
salmon, like these kind of things stand out to me when I'm like, okay, interesting. You have smoked salmon. You have, I don't know, bagels or something like that's quite
Right.
an
Yeah.
international thing. It's not a local thing.
Hmm.
What else did I notice? There was quite a few beggars. There were quite a few beggars, more in certain areas than others. I noticed, like, I don't know the
Yeah.
neighborhoods, but there were certain areas that seemed a lot more touristy, and that's where there were more beggars. But there were a lot of kids begging, but they were quite decent. They were quite, I don't know. I just like the fact that I can at least talk to them, and and a lot of them, they're like, I don't want money, I just want food, kind of thing.
Right.
So gave them food a few times and stuff. And like I'm actually well, when you tell them, okay, I'll buy you food, they go to the shop, they start packing everything. But yeah, I can actually tell them, no, no, get this and this and this, stuff like that. What else, man? What else? What are you curious about?
So it's interesting, isn't it? Because you're seeing a lot of similarities to, I mean, similarities in terms of positive similarities to Zaire,
Hmm.
um, which is interesting, really, because the lines that divide us are kind of superficial. What about? I know you weren't there long enough, but did you go to any masajid? What was your opinion on, general religiosity of the
Um,
locale?
Yeah, I think the average people, like, okay, if we start with that's just where my mind went, is how people dress. Like the
Mm,
women are dressed like, again, for me, it's like Algeria. Like, not all the women are wearing hijab, but they're dressed pretty modestly, yani, even if they're not
yeah,
covering their hair per se, for the
yeah,
most part. There are some that are not very well dressed, and there are tourists that are like that as well. But and like it is a bit of that vibe where if a tourist was badly dressed, it wouldn't be like, oh wow, oh no, we're gonna stone her and chase her out of the town. It's not that. It
yeah,
seems like it's normal to them, isn't it? Probably because
yeah.
they're used to tourists. So on that side, it was like it was decent, yeah, and probably if you go to certain neighborhoods, it's gonna be much better and stuff. Um, In terms of the masajid, I went to Jum'ah there, and the khutbah was a bit dead. Like the guy who was giving the khutbah was not. He was just like an old man who was like kind of whispering into the mic, and it was just not the best
Right.
khutbah. But obviously that was just one place, one guy. Um, uh, yeah, it's hard to judge religiosity really, but obviously the way people.
What about
Yeah.
from your business partners? Did they kind of give you any heads up on what
Well, the thing is,
their
like,
thoughts are?
we come from different places, right? So, for example, I've lived in quite a few countries and I can compare based on that. But my partners are born raised in the UK fully, so they might compare to UK. So anywhere in the Muslim world is going to be better than the UK in that sense. My partner
Yeah.
also lived in Turkey though, but in Bursa. So Bursa, you know, obviously everyone's Muslim, but it's not going to feel very religious. So Tanja is definitely better than Bursa in that sense. Compared to where
Yeah.
I live in Istanbul, I would say it's similar, Yani. I would say it's similar kind of level. Um, we went to pray once in the masjid. Like we didn't come for the jama'ah, but we were praying Asr, and there was an old man in there, and my partner was wearing like a jalaba kind of thing. So he came and he started saying, "Oh yeah, he should lead because he's wearing the jalaba, and we just need to find a hat for him. He needs a hat to pray and stuff."
Yeah.
Um,
Right.
but it's all good. It's all nice, all positive. The interactions with people are all always very good, very polite, very nice. And obviously, like I don't know, like in Turkey a little bit. Again, this goes back to like depends what you're comparing with. But in Turkey, the average person, it. For example, some people they take it wrong way. If you say "Salam alaikum" to them in Turkey, some of them, some people, certain types of people, they don't like that. Can you imagine,
Yeah.
right? But in Morocco, obviously, there's no question about that. It's very normal. Everything's salam alaikum.
Yeah.
Everything's yarham waldik, and these kind of du'as are very common in the way people speak. Um,
Yeah.
so it's good, bro. What can I say? It's like a normal, what I would consider a normal like Muslim country or Arab country or whatever in that sense.
Yeah.
Um, I did see one just while we were driving. I saw a some sort of Islamic center, like a Islamic. Maybe it was for Tahfidh, I think. But it was
Hmm.
like a government thing. Yeah, so there was that. Um, I've been told about Morocco, like that a lot of the cities have a place called Dar al Hadith, which is a more, if you want to call it Salafi, because obviously the default in Morocco is like Sufi kind of stuff. So Dar al Hadith is non-Sufi place where you might find Islamic education and stuff like that. So obviously I wasn't there long enough to check that out or anything, but yeah, Tanja is big enough that it would have that. Uh, Also, yeah, the stuff like the infrastructure and services are really good, I would say. Not quite Turkey level, but like good. For example, they have like their version of well, in Turkey we have Getir. In the UK, I don't know what the equivalent is. Like some kind of like Uber Eats, I suppose. They have their version of Uber Eats, which is a Spanish company. Very efficient, very good. You can even order shopping on it. Does Uber Eats do that in UK or?
They've started to, not necessarily from big stores, but the big stores will have their own sort of delivery thing. But yeah, you can get them to go to like
Yeah,
express stores and stuff.
exactly.
Yes.
It's the express type of thing, like within half an hour kind of thing. So they have
Yeah.
that as well, and it seemed to work quite efficiently, quite good. Um, what else? Apparently, electronics are really expensive over there, like even more expensive than Turkey, which for me is like unbelievable because Turkey's a good
Yeah.
30% more than UK, for example, and Morocco's even more than that apparently. So that's mad.
Yeah. Generally, yeah.
Cars are cheaper though than Turkey and Algeria because Turkey and Algeria both have really high taxes on cars, but Morocco doesn't seem to have that. There seem to be a lot of wealthy people in Tanja.
Hmm.
Apparently, Tanja's like very sought after place to live for Moroccans. Like, it's considered one of the nicer cities. I guess the climate is nicer than like Marrakesh is pretty much like desert climate, I think. So
Yeah.
Tanja's more north, more Mediterranean. Apparently in the winter, it's not doesn't get that cold, but it does rain. So that's where greenery comes from. We went to this place called Capsaltel or something like that. Can't remember now. But it's like about a bit out of the city. There's a nice beach there, amazing beach, and there's like this elevated, like on a hill kind of thing, on a cliff, and it's where the Mediterranean and the Atlantic meet. And they set up
Yeah,
like
I know that place. Yeah,
you know that place, yeah. So,
yeah.
but I think what maybe since you went there, they've developed it a lot. Like apparently the king came and he's like, this place must be developed, and then a month later it was developed. um,
Is that how he sounds? Did you go to the cave?
Cave.
It's
I
just
don't
near it.
remember a cave. I don't remember a cave. No.
Ah, there's like a cave. This one. It's a very famous one.
Oh, okay. It's like at sea level.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's you can go in there and they've got like it's not really. It's next to the this is it, isn't it? Where the lighthouse is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just
So
looking at
there's
where
a
on my way.
lighthouse. There's like few cafes and stuff overseeing the sea.
Oh, the cave's
Yeah,
like down the road. It's not the same place, but yeah.
right. Yeah. So yeah, that place is like, done up nicely, and it's like kind of you can access it for free and stuff. The roads generally seem very good and clean and stuff. It was a bit like within the city, it was a bit like too much cars and roads. Like, when you're walking and you're just overwhelmed by how much car there is versus pavement and buildings. Like, there's just,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
even though Tangier's not that big, but I just got that feeling a little bit. And obviously, I'm comparing to where I live in Istanbul. Istanbul's like that as well normally, but where I live, things are more open. So even though there might be like 4-lane roads and this and that, but because it's open, it doesn't feel that
Mm.
crowded and stuff. What else? I feel like there's a big range of prices for a lot of different things, right? So if you want to eat, let's say restaurants, you can find stuff for really cheap, and then you can find stuff really expensive, like UK pricing. So you can kind of pick and choose. Even the same goes with rent, with yeah, like what you pay for rent. So I think like maybe locals would pay something low, like maybe £300-400 for a flat, but then I know other people are paying 700-800 pounds for their flat. So it kind of depends on the kind of neighborhood, the kind of, do you want to live in a compound, not a compound? Do you want to live in a flat, not a flat? So it seemed to be
Yeah.
a range of things. And like I said, there seemed to be quite a lot of wealthy people. So, and we drove through a very wealthy neighborhood, like huge villas and all of that. So there's a range,
Yeah.
there's a range of stuff, pricing and luxury and this kind of thing. Um, what else, man? What else? There's some really nice places. We went to like the old city, where they've got like shops selling traditional stuff, and where a lot of tourists kind of go. But it wasn't very like buy this, buy this, buy this. I actually walked into a few of those shops and no one even approached me. It was just like take what you want, like
Yeah.
look for what you want. And I actually bought something. I don't usually buy those kind of things, but I bought a gift and it was decent price. Was able to haggle a little bit. I bought some argan oil. Um,
Nice.
yeah, we went to this. It's like I don't know. Someone recommended it. It's like a restaurant in the middle. It's in the middle of a house in the courtyard area. There's a restaurant there. Had like bhaji, and it was Friday, so we had ta'am, couscous, and
Ah,
I specifically asked for what do they call it in Morocco? In Algeria, we call it rayab, but I think they were calling it leban.
it'll bend that.
Yeah, like that thick kind of. It's not
Yeah.
normal Lebanon. It's a bit like in UAE in the Gulf. Lebanon it's not sour or bitter, but in North Africa it's more like bitter and sour. It's like it's almost got bubbles in it because it's been fermenting, right? So I had some of that, and with the couscous and stuff, it was really good, man. The food was always amazing in terms of just the ingredients. Again, that kind of place, it was a bit more touristy. The prices were, I don't know. I feel like it was more expensive. When you go to those fancy places, more expensive than Istanbul potentially.
Yeah.
But then they
Yeah.
had an amazing roof terrace where you could just see the sea, the old city, the rest of the city. Uh, Amazing, and the weather obviously is amazing. So yeah, man. Within a day, I was like, yeah, I could live here. Like generally, anyone can live here. Like It's it depends where you're coming from, though, right? Like again, people's perception of how the world should be and what's normal in the world and what's common and what should be expected, that will shape whether you think a place is good or not, I think, you know.
Yeah, of course, of
Like,
course.
but to a massive, massive extent. So that's why I feel like a lot of people I talk to who have moved from the West to Turkey or Morocco or whatever country, their views of that place they've moved to are shaped by what they're used to, obviously, in the UK or America. Whereas I'm like, I've lived in UAE, I've lived in UK, I've visited many countries, I've visited Algeria loads of times. I've heard a lot about Egypt and how things are. So I've heard a lot about Saudi as well. I even lived in Saudi for 1 year. So then, with all that kind of information, when I go to a country, I'm judging it based on all those things. I'm not judging it just on UK. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's if you can't live in Tanja, you're soft. Like
Well, I've always considered
even
it
if you
as like,
didn't speak Arabic or whatever, like
yeah,
yeah,
I've always considered it as like a very well balanced city. You know,
yeah,
it's not the UAE and Saudi, and in terms of like the rich flocking to it, right,
yeah,
and the wealthy flocking to it. But it's also not, you know, Mauritania, for example,
yeah,
or where some people do make hijrah there and stuff. So I'm talking from a hijrah perspective. It's somewhere where people coming from the West um, will people coming from the West tend to holiday in that region anyway.
yeah,
So it's already appealing in
yeah.
that regard. Living there, like I said, it's a new thing for me to consider. Obviously, you've kind of spoke to people who are living there. My cousin, I think, lives there now. Because she's Moroccan and she lives in Morocco and born in Morocco, but she studied there and
Mm.
then decided to, when she got married, I think she's living there now.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, I remember when I last went, I was like, wow, this is where I would like to live if I could pick, because of the North African bias, obviously. UAE sounds great to some people, and I think it's very catered to English speakers and stuff for
Mm.
that regard. And you could get by on English, no problem. Uh, Banja, less so, but the North African culture is very much, like you said, shared with the sprinkles of smoked salmon and bagels.
Mm. Yeah.
Because they'll cater, and they've got a very good like service ethic, right? It's not
Yeah.
like sort it out yourself. Morocco is, generally speaking, because it is uh, uh, very aware of its culture and very 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 much likes to promote its culture. They do treat their guests like guests, I suppose, guests that they need to
Mm.
look after within reason. People that take the mick will get
Mm.
uh, treated accordingly. But yeah, what do you think in terms of yourself? Do you think it's something you'd consider as a potential move, or is Turkey very much rooted in your
Um,
whatever?
I mean, look, now that I've been there, and obviously I've only been to Tanja and I haven't been to all the neighborhoods in Tanja. But like, for example, if I was going to consider living in Tanja, I would want to like look at different neighborhoods and get like the biggest question I have in a lot of countries is always the availability of Islamic knowledge and the freedom to do your own kind of little durus or your own halaqat and that kind of stuff. That's very, very important. So I don't know what Morocco is like in that sense, right? All I know is Sheikh Saad Al Kimli has his thing. I might consider Rabata just for that. So that's a question mark I have for any country I go to. Um, yeah, with it, like from just a week of going there, I would put it as Plan C. It would be a Plan C for me for sure. I'm going inshallah. I booked my ticket to go to Algeria in July inshallah. So I haven't been for a while, so that'll be good. I'm only going for like 8 days though. I'm going for my cousin's wedding, and it'll just be good to go, bro. Like as well
Yeah, yeah.
from I'm going on my own, so it's a light kind of trip. It's a one week is fine for just me to go there and back. But it'll be good to get that update. and I won't be staying in such a small city as well, so that's kind of good. And then later in the year, inshallah, I'm going to go with the family. I'm going to stay longer, inshallah. So by the end of the year, I'll have a better picture of Algeria. I have a bit of a picture of Morocco. Obviously, I have a full picture of Turkey. So then I'll be very well informed. The only reason, honestly, like Turkey is good, bro. Like especially where I live. I know, like if you look at the comments on that video I made, a lot of people have bad experience in Turkey, and I fully get that. Like it's definitely it's the case. It's just that Allah blessed me to come to a good area with good people and like all the good stuff of Turkey in kind of one place, and that's why it's really good. And I think, like I said 5 minutes ago, the freedom to do your own durus and the freedom of like expression and teaching and that kind of stuff is a huge factor, a huge reason that this area is good, because it when you have that freedom, it attracts people that want to teach and that want to learn, and those kind of people are the best people. From what when I think of the thing that makes a good society, it's not just people being Muslim, but it's people being Muslim and having that culture of seeking knowledge, even if it's basic knowledge, but always having people in that society who are ulama and who are teaching and who are doing da'wah, and then people who are willing to learn from them. When you have that going on in a society, you have a very good society. And if you
Yeah.
don't have that, you actually, even if it's a Muslim society, you're going to be lacking a lot of things. And so
Mm.
that's something that I've realized over the years, that I always want to live in a place where that exists, right? So that's a big factor. So yeah, I would say Turkey. I'm here right now. It's my plan A. My plan B would be Algeria. If turns out Algeria is suitable, then that would always be good because I'm a citizen and I speak the language and
Yeah.
blah blah blah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then plan C would be Morocco, because Morocco is similar to Algeria, but I'm guessing that it still has a big a 20%, let's say, upgrade in terms of infrastructure and services. And also, even though I'm not a citizen, I think Morocco is very open to Western passport kind of people, right? So that the immigration side of things wouldn't be too tough. So that's why I would put it as plan C. But for other people, like for people listening, yeah, like if I'm thinking of, let's say you're living in the UK, and you're looking to live in a Muslim country, and you want that Islamic culture, decent Islamic culture, and the freedom and stuff that I just talked about, Morocco might be number one. I mean, what would be better than number one? What would
I
be
don't
better
know.
than
I don't.
Morocco?
The thing is, I can't think of any Muslim country where you wouldn't find that. You know,
Oh,
I
but
I'm
100%,
trying
bro.
to.
You wouldn't
Yeah,
find
and
it
this
in
is
like
why.
UAE, for example. UAE is very comfortable, but you don't have that same freedom of expression and learning and teaching and dawah and
Yeah,
those kind of things.
I'm very big on like dual nationals capitalizing on their dual nationality, even
Mhm.
if they haven't sorted it out, but they do actually, you know, they have a legitimate right to a
Mhm.
nationality in that country, because
Mhm.
I think longevity wise, for your kids, for stability, for you know, trying to place roots down in the side of the fence that you kind of want your descendants to be on, if you know what I
Yeah,
mean. Um, then you need to capitalize on that. And I think when you're young, and in your case, for example, you're relatively young, and Turkey is a decent kind of place to be. But I would advise definitely trying to take advantage of Algeria and set roots in Algeria and really, go for like that would be
yeah,
my plan A if I was in your
yeah.
situation. Um,
Yeah,
and,
100%. I guess I was
because
thinking for
it's
the case of the person, let's say, because most Muslims in the UK are from Asian backgrounds. So I was like, let's imagine you're of an Asian background. Then where
but
would I say to
sorry,
go?
my
Yeah.
assumption is that is a question I have for the Asian community at large, because I don't know generally what the themes are there. But from what I understand, a lot of them do have, their passports and their nationalities in Pakistan, in Bangladesh,
Yeah,
etc.
yeah. No,
Um,
that's true. But from what I know, those countries are not really an option. Allahu Alam. I mean, obviously, it's always going
I
to be
don't
an
know
option for a
why.
certain type of people. Um,
I don't know why. I don't know why. I don't
yeah,
know
just
why.
from
Like
what
I
I
heard,
hear, it's a bit difficult.
Is it? I wonder what I'd love to speak to somebody in depth about that. I know we had the Samad on here before. Um, yeah, I remember him. He was gonna. I remember inviting him on to talk. I think a little bit about Pakistan. I thought he was going to come and talk about it in a positive way. And if I remember correctly, it was a few years ago now.
Yeah,
If I remember
yeah,
correctly, it went down a very negative. I might need
yeah,
to
yeah.
re-listen to it. If you ever do watch that again, you'll see like I'm very surprised by the direction of the conversation's going.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I guess so. Although I just don't know how much of that is a generational thing because like we're kind of second generation, first generation. You know, what generation? I don't know what generation I am. What generation would you call me? My dad was born in Tunisia, so what generation would that make me? First generation here or second
No,
generation?
I think you're second generation because you're basically the first born there, but you didn't go there. I think first generation is the one that went there.
Yeah, I think it's just there's a it's that kind of diaspora curse of like very passionate about Pakistan or Bangladesh or Tunisia or Algeria, but not very passionate about actually living there. Um, which is a bit of a
This is
it's a
the thing
weird
that I
place
was
to
thinking
be.
of as well. Something that I kind of my eyes were open to when I went to Morocco is that in any country or most countries, you can live two different ways. You could live a tourist lifestyle, even though you're living there
Yeah,
365 days a year, you could still live a tourist lifestyle. What do I mean by that? I mean, kind of like my partner Mohammed, he lives in Morocco, but does he know any locals? No. Does he, can he even communicate with locals? No.
yeah,
Does
yeah,
he know, for example, does he, because when you speak to locals, you get to know the issues of the country and the society, what goes on, right, in the country and the society more. Whereas when you're living the tourist lifestyle, you're very much not exposed to that. You don't really know the bad stuff going on around you. You're just going to the the safest neighborhoods and you're going to the best whatever restaurants and you're going this and you've got your car and you're not
yeah,
exposed to the everyday life. So you could live that kind of life in many countries and then you can live a normal life or a local life, whatever you want to call it, where you're very much living with locals. You know your neighbors are locals. Maybe your kids go to the local schools. Those that kind of thing. So and you can probably do a hybrid between those as well. So the whether you live one or other way, you're going to have different experiences as well. Because even my perception of Algeria is partly made up from the fact that I have family in Algeria and I speak to Algerians, and most of what I know about Algeria is not from me seeing it; it's from people telling me about it.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
and obviously, a lot of people in general, let's just say in general in the world, a lot of people are a bit negative and they complain a lot. So then, if you're speaking to locals and they're complaining, now you feel like the place is not so good. But what if I was living tourist lifestyle in Algeria? Would I have a different perception?
Yeah,
Maybe I
of
would, you
course.
know? So
Yeah.
I was actually on the Algeria Reddit. I
Oh
actually
God.
searched, I searched Hijra to Algeria. I just thought, let me search that, see what comes up. And the first result was Reddit. So I was reading
Right.
through it,
Right.
and to be
Okay.
honest, bro, I was pleasantly surprised. Like people were not that negative in that subreddit.
I think yeah. Yeah. I think
They
I've been
were
on the Algeria one.
yeah
Yeah.
they were there was like positive and negative. You know, like there was one post where the guy was like, "Is it just me or am I the only one that has no wish to leave Algeria? I actually like it here." And then there were other people
Yeah.
saying, "Yeah, me too," and blah blah blah. So
Yeah.
there was like some positive, and then there was other negative, like a lot of people asking like, "How do you get a bank card?" And then they're like, "Yeah, so get your family in France to set up a Wise account for you, and then when they visit you, they can bring the
Oh,
card and
oh,
stuff like that."
oh goodness.
Um, so yeah, there was some surprising stuff because a lot of people in that Reddit they're like in Alger, like the capital, but there seemed to be a lot of stuff missing even in the capital. But you know, I'll judge that more myself when I go there. But yeah, it wasn't all negative, which makes me think like, you know, like when you go on Reddit, sometimes you feel like, yeah, this is biased, like this is just the liberal people of that country talking, or blah blah blah.
Oh yeah.
But this didn't feel too much like that. So obviously, I put a pinch of salt, but it was an interesting, you know,
Yeah.
to read
Don't
that.
don't go on the Tunisia one. The Tunisia one's absolute stress.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, yeah, you're right. You're right. It's it's uh it's an interesting sort of thought experiment, I think, for Diaspora to kind of think about where do we kind of see ourselves. I don't know, man. I think like I was really pleasantly surprised with Algeria. I can't consider myself going anywhere. If you to give me the choice, I can't consider myself going anywhere but North Africa because of the familiarity of it all, And I think you've touched on that in your visit to Morocco. That familiarity and is
Mm.
nice,
Well, that's
and
amazing.
yeah, and you kind of want that for your kids as well because you can understand that and you can
Yeah, yeah,
celebrate that.
yeah.
Um,
Bro, I
Everywhere
didn't
else
tell
is
you.
nice to visit, but
There was a homeless guy. My first night there was a homeless guy outside the hotel, and he just started talking to me or something. I think he was helping us to park or something, maybe in hopes of getting some money out of us or something. So he was talking to me, and then I told him I'm from Algeria, and then he just hugged me.
yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
I love that, and that's something you'll see. Like, despite the politics and the narrative, you will see general people just do love each other and they do want
Mm.
faith for each other.
Yeah.
And it's kind of goodness you don't see anywhere else
Mm.
in the West. Like, you don't see that kind of connection.
Mm.
You don't realize that every little word is every little sentence is just packed with du'as, right? But because it's so normal, you don't break it down like that in your head. You just think it's the way people talk.
Mm-hmm.
But then when you actually do actively think about it, there's like I've just had this conversation with people, and he's like 20 du'as in that conversation,
Mm.
right? Like Dean is everywhere,
Mm.
um, and pessimists might not necessarily be open to seeing that. Um, but there is a lot of khair. There is a lot of khair, and yeah, I'm glad you had a good time, bro. Not that I'm like the representative of Morocco, but I am
Yeah.
glad that you had a good time. That's great to
Even on
hear.
the way out
Great.
at the passport control on the way out, I think it's because of my name. You know, my name, the way it's spelled and stuff. You can tell it's kind of North African. So they asked me again. They're like Mughrabi, and I was like, La la Jazairi, and they're like, okay, all right.
Okay,
My dad was kind of
okay,
like,
that's
my dad was like, it might be dodgy for you to live in Morocco because you might be seen as suspicious, basically, like Algerian living in Morocco. Like, what are you
yeah.
doing there? But I don't know. Maybe it's not really like that.
I don't think it is. I wouldn't consider it. I don't know.
There's a lot of
I'm
beef,
not
bro.
as
There's a lot of beef actually between
yeah,
the
but it's like
governments. Like recently, what was it? A Moroccan team was playing an Algerian team in the I think it was African Champions League or something, and the
yeah,
Moroccan team purposely, or maybe yeah, I'm pretty sure it was purpose, on their
here
kit
comes the bias.
on their kit,
Yeah, go
they
on.
put they had a map of Morocco, including the Western Sahara part, like on purpose, right, to
Well, yeah,
provoke.
but that's their flag. That's what
Yeah,
they would have.
they consider it obviously part of Morocco and all that. So they came and they had that as a kit. Then the Algerians were like, you can't play with that kit. And then they're
Okay.
like, and then they just didn't play. They're like, okay, we forfeit the match, and they went back. Then it was the second leg, and the Algerians came to play, and they did something equally petty, and then they just ended up like not playing each other and stuff, like both forfeited. But this is like that shows the level of they're just always trying to be at each other, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of stupid and sad. But even like I was looking at from Tanja to let's say Tlemcen, which is right on the west of Algeria. I think it's maybe 5 6 hours drive. But if you put that on Google Maps, it's going to tell you to take the ferry to Spain and then take the ferry to Algeria because the border's closed. And even I found out that even there are no flights. I didn't know that before. There's no flights
Oh,
between Algeria and Morocco.
no, there isn't. You can't fly there. You have to kind of go and get a different airline, if you know what I mean. So, like
Yeah,
you
you have
said,
to go
either go to
via
France,
something. Yeah.
go to Tunis, even though
Yeah,
it's out of the
that's what
way.
came up. Yeah, like go to Tunisia,
Yeah,
then go Morocco. So it's very sad, bro. It's very messed up. But Allah Yahdina, what can I say?
it really is. I think that relationship is the last hurdle that well, I say the last hurdle. There's other hurdles, but one of the big hurdles of like a very nice North African project emerging. I suppose they're kind of doing one at the moment with Egypt and not Egypt, sorry, Libya and Tunis and and Algeria. It was sad to see that Morocco wasn't included in that. You know,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
imagine the road trip I would be involved in, bro. Imagine the road trip I would get involved in if they
I
were
mean,
all
it's
happy.
it's actually very doable, bro. Like if you started in Tunisia, you can drive obviously all through Tunisia, Algeria. When you get to the edge of Algeria, go Spain and then go Morocco.
I don't want to go anywhere near Spain. I went to Spain and I just didn't like it. I went to Spain just to drive through.
Yeah.
And I just remember I don't like anywhere that's unfamiliar, right? Like I went to Turkey and I Turkey's great, but I felt like such an outsider. Like I just did not feel like I wanted to be here that long.
Hmm.
Like living there is such a foreign concept to me. It just
Hmm.
makes no sense in my brain because I've got no desire to learn Turkish.
Hmm.
Um, and I remember that because it was my wife loves Turkey. She absolutely adores it, loves the culture, loves everything about it. So when we got married, I remember thinking, "Oh, let me surprise her." And I remember like coming across a really good deal and spontaneously booking it. And I remember landing there and seeing all the signs and stuff. And I was like, "Wait, what have I done? How am I going to do this?"
Yeah.
A word of Turkish.
It's not easy. Yeah.
But then I got a message on my phone because it's like part of the Eurozone or whatever
All right.
in terms of whatever phone. I think it was like Vodafone. So I
Oh
didn't have to
yeah.
pay extra to get to use my phone. I
Yeah.
was like, oh, this is great. So I was just like Google Maps everywhere, and that was it. I just relied on my phone so much.
Yeah.
Whilst, like you said, in Morocco for you or in Zaire for me or whatever, you can just talk to people and it's fine, and I'll
Yeah.
get by and I'll make it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. That was something that I became very aware of in Morocco, that I've been limiting myself a lot in Turkey because of the language.
Yep.
So like in Morocco, I was just like calling people, asking for stuff or whatever. Like I didn't have to think twice. In Turkey, literally, I limit the things I do based on not knowing the language, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I don't know, something basic like buying secondhand stuff, buying secondhand furniture or a phone or whatever, yeah?
Mm,
I don't even consider it because it means I'm going to have to buy it off a Turkish person, which I can't communicate with very well. Plus, there's always in the back of your head the fact that they might hate you because you're a foreigner as well. So
yeah.
I just been limiting myself a lot, you know. Even car, like I've been limiting myself as well because I don't have a car because it's like double the price of anywhere else in the world. And also, it's like, do I want to buy a car when I might have to leave and all that uh, one day? So yeah, I've been limiting myself. Whereas in Morocco, the
Yeah.
language was free and we had a car and it was just free, you know. So
Yeah. Alhamdulillah.
interesting.
Alhamdulillah. Interesting. Anyone thinking of making the move? Then make the move. Well, I wouldn't say make the move. Just consider your options. I'd be
Mm.
interested to see what your business partners are thinking about it. Um,
No,
as English
he's
speakers, so to speak, and not from that neck of the woods
yeah. Like
generally.
we said, we could bring him on to discuss it, but generally, he's really liking it. He finds it a lot more Islamic vibe than the UK or Bursa. So it's good, man. I was speaking to another brother who lives here in Istanbul. He's African American. He went to Morocco, but he said he doesn't want to move to Morocco. Like he's the he's the type of guy, yeah. Whenever like some hardship comes up from living in Turkey, or like, oh, there's new immigration laws or rules or something, he's always like, oh, I'm going, I'm moving, I ain't staying around here, yeah. But then a year later, he's still here. But anyway, he's like, yeah, I'm gonna leave Turkey, this and that. I'm like, okay. I'm like, you went to Morocco, right? Like, why? He's like,
What
I'm
do you
gonna move
think?
to
Yeah.
Oman or something. I'm like, what about Morocco? And he said he didn't find it that Islamic feeling. Um, you know what it is, bro? I mean, you've not been to the Gulf hardly at all, right? You just went to Dubai one time. But
Like in 2008, and I was
yeah,
ill and I can't remember anything.
like, people, I don't know why this is. I'm trying to think of why this is. But, if you take someone from, let's say, the UK and you put them in
Hmm.
the Gulf and then you put them in Morocco, North Africa, whatever, they always feel like the Gulf is more Islamic. And I'm just trying to think, why is that? Like,
Is it because of
is there more
popes?
hijab? Not necessarily. No, well, to be
Is
honest,
it
in
because everyone
Saudi
wears
there is
thobes?
more hijab. Yeah, thobes. Is it thobes? That could play a role. Yes, there is more
And
hijab
there's
in
no.
Saudi for sure. That's true.
Is there like in terms? I know these are just subtle and superficial things mostly, but is all the signage in Arabic, or is there like English and Arabic? I'm assuming it's
No, it's
English
all
and
English
Arabic as
and
well.
Arabic. Yeah.
Hmm.
So
Maybe
I
the
don't know.
Frenchness of it makes them feel a bit, makes it
Yeah.
detaches it a little
Like to
bit.
me,
Because
it's not obvious that one feels more Islamic than the other, but maybe I'm just
thing is,
like, yeah.
I think it's like subtle stuff. Like there is, I think that has a lot to do with it. And when you're an English speaker and you go to the Gulf, you see English signs, which is familiar, and you see Arabic, which is familiar, as in it's familiarly Islamic, right? And that it doesn't trigger that switch in your head that this is foreign or this is. But then in North Africa, you're like, oh yeah, Arabic, I understand that. That's Islamic. And then you see French stuff everywhere. You're like, oh
Mm,
no,
mm, mm.
triggers that kind of. And then it's same with the culture, and it's same with like
Could be,
there
yeah.
is going to be like this post-colonial thread that you won't necessarily see in the Gulf as much,
Mm,
maybe. Um,
yeah.
and it could
Also,
be subtle things.
outside of the UAE, I guess there are a lot less Westerners. Like Oman has has Westerners, but not as much. And Saudi, obviously, Saudi actually is very Islamic. Um, so that could be reason as well. But then it depends where you go in Morocco. But yeah, if you go to like the main cities, Marrakesh, Tanja, like these are touristy cities. So you're gonna see tourists and you're gonna feel like, oh, this is
Oh
not
yeah.
Islamic. So maybe that's the reason as well.
Yeah, I mean, if you go to the little villages, like go to the little village where my mum was born, which is not
Yeah.
far from there, and it's like, yeah, this is a little village. It's all the men that are out working. Women might maybe in the fields are doing, like traditional stuff. That's what I'm trying to say, like
Yeah, yeah.
traditional dress. You won't see anyone with their heads uncovered. You won't see anyone dressed immodestly. And it's that big divide between city life and rural life. And
Mm,
I am largely more familiar with the rural side of things, so I
mm,
don't get the criticisms as much as other people do in terms of like Tunisia, for example. People say, "Well, Tunisia is this and it's liberal and it's feminist and it's this and that and whatever." I'm like, yeah, I don't know any of that because I don't see any of that because I live in the sticks and it's fine. All right. So
mm,
it's kind of where you want to be and what sacrifices you want to make if you do consider it a sacrifice. And that's why I said like Tanja for me, it lent more into the city life, of course, and the modern life.
mm.
Which is why for me, when I did go, it wasn't because I lived there and I spent a week there. It's because I'd visit for a day because I was nearby. Right.
Right.
So it's like, oh, I'll visit Tanja for a bit. It's like go to the city.
Mm.
Nice, very nice. Leave. I suppose you didn't leave Tanja at all, did you? To go anywhere too far. I mean, I know you went to
No.
that little point, but
Yeah,
yeah,
nowhere else. Yeah.
next time, inshallah.
I saw this
Next time.
funny video. Like whenever you go on an Arab airline, then the pilot is
Yeah,
gonna, give that intro speech in Arabic and then in English or whatever, right? So what they're
yeah,
saying, like make sure you, seat fasten your belt and stuff. Yeah. So these guys are on the plane. I think they're supposed to be like, I think they're like American, like Asian Americans, right? Like South Asian
yeah.
American. So they're on the plane and then they're hearing the pilot's giving his speech and they're like, Ameen, Ameen.
Oh, right, I saw that. Yeah,
You saw
I
that,
saw that.
okay?
Oh, yeah, yeah,
I thought that was
yeah. I don't
funny.
know how I feel about it. I was like, oh, I don't like jokes like this. But yeah, it is what it is. Well, I mean, we haven't got time now, but there is a lot of I don't know if this is relevant, but there is definitely like a fetishization
Hmm.
of Morocco by a lot of English or Western kind of uh, Muslims who, even when it comes to like the women of Morocco, right? Oh, I want to go to Morocco and marry a Moroccan woman and this and that. And this is it's a big discussion within the
Hmm.
Moroccan community,
Hmm.
actually. Um, you don't see it about any other kind of North African country. I don't think I ever heard anyone say, "Oh, I'm going to go Algeria, marry Algerian," or
Yeah.
Tunisian, marry a Tunisian, right?
Hmm.
And there are negative stereotypes associated with certain areas of Morocco, like Agadir, for example, or Marrakesh and stuff like that. And then
What are the
despite
stereotypes?
this,
Tell me.
well, they talk about um, prostitution and this kind of
Where?
stuff.
In those two
Um,
places, Yani?
I think Agadir and Marrakesh. But
Hmm.
the thing is, I'm oblivious. I'll be honest. I am very oblivious to it. I've never seen anything like that because I don't. I guess I don't. If it does exist as they say, I'm not in those areas or circles, or wouldn't even know what that looks like. You know, if
Sure.
it was in front of me, so to speak.
Hmm.
Um, so there are those negative stereotypes, um, and they're negative stereotypes about every country, really. But
No, Morocco
I think,
definitely has that. Not just by Westerners, but also by Gulf people in the Gulf.
yeah,
Because a lot of people from the Gulf go and marry from Morocco as well.
right.
I mean, part of it. So part of it is that they're like, oh, Moroccan women are beautiful, and then part of it is also on the other side, if you like, if you see it that way, is Moroccan women. How do you say it? They'll just like do anything to get a passport to get out, kind of thing. Um, so, but then that,
You,
not that,
you
not
could
that
say that
that.
about anywhere, though.
Yes, exactly. That's what I was just gonna say. Like there are a lot of Algerian women who would just, have very, you could say, low standards for who they'll marry in order to get out. Um, but yeah, I think it's just that that stereotype has spread a lot further when it comes
I'd
to
like to think
Morocco.
it's not as much as it used to be. You know, it kind of reminds me of that Reddit post you mentioned about,
Mhm.
the notion of a lot of North Africans aren't really too keen on leaving their
Mm,
locale. I even saw that in Tunisia. Like, I would mention about how the way the West is, and a lot of people there would be like, "Yeah, I've got no interest in leaving, etc., etc." Young people, whilst
mm,
years ago, I remember people actually coming up to me and begging me to figure out a way for them to come over, right? Um, I think that the discourse has changed a lot in recent years, and I think
mm,
with uh, with the advent of with the catch up, should I say, of technology in North Africa, with
mhm,
phones and internet and stuff, I don't feel like people think they're missing out as much, and they do see more
mhm,
of the West directly as opposed to the dream that they think it might be. You
mm.
know,
Yeah, yeah.
it's like,
Um,
maybe.
there's also stories of not just Moroccan but North African women like getting what they want out of their husbands. So like get moving to the UK, for example, and then once they get citizenship, they just dip. They just dip.
I mean,
So
yeah, I get it. I get that. Well, if it's what's the word? Marrying someone who isn't Moroccan or marrying someone who isn't from that background, then I get that. So, like,
uh,
I don't know, let's say like an Asian Muslim marrying a Moroccan woman and then that happening, maybe, yeah, I could see that happening more than a Moroccan marrying a Moroccan woman.
oh, of course, because he'll be able to do more background checks and be less naive and all of that. But I think it's obvious to me that there is a group of naive brothers who just think I can marry a beautiful woman from Morocco who's going to be traditional at the same time, not knowing that she's using you hard. And
It's
you have
exploitation
to,
on both sides, isn't it?
well, yeah, it's like it's a bit no, but maybe the guy was a bit. He wasn't exploiting. He's just like, yeah, I just want that's what I want in a wife, and I hear that I can find those kind of women in
Oh,
Morocco,
right,
so let
okay.
me marry from there. Not knowing that there is a portion of those people who are ready for people like you to take advantage of you. And so, some people are like people in the front row, they're kind of considering that route. And I'm like, look, you just gotta, if you're gonna go down that route, you need to do background checks, you need to get references, you need to kind of
It's
be
just not,
able
yeah,
to
it's,
ask around. But also, I told them specifically, I'm like, if you're ever speaking to someone about this, tell them that they're not going to move to England. They're not getting the passport. Like, that's not going to happen. Even if it might happen later, just tell them from the get go, because that'll filter out certain types of people.
I think it's all stupid. I'll be honest with you. I think it's
What is
all a
stupid though?
stupid, silly pipe dream that people even consider that as an option because it makes no sense in terms of like, you're not a serious guy to be like speaking to someone
Hmm.
across countries for marriage. You can't do any checks. It's not a professional kind of way of
Hmm.
going about getting married. It just makes no sense. Like, you wouldn't do that with someone local. You wouldn't not check somebody local. Why
Yeah,
would you?
yeah, yeah. Okay, I see what you mean.
It's such a shallow understanding of human beings in general. Forget Moroccans, human beings in general. To
Hmm.
think that any human being that lives in the Muslim world is so great that doesn't require any checks. Yeah, maybe nine times out
Oh,
of
that's
ten they're
for
going to
sure.
be,
Yeah.
more attached to their culture and their background and their heritage, etc., etc., etc.
Yeah.
It still makes no difference. Like I've heard some horror stories of just bad things that people might do. I'm not saying obviously this isn't like I remember in Tunisia when I was last there, I heard a story of like a man and like who beat up his wife and then he killed his wife and then he launched himself off a roof and tried to commit like what I'm trying to say. I know that's a very random example, but I'm saying bad things happen in Muslim
Yeah.
countries, which
Yeah. Yeah.
means you do your checks too,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's weird, man, and I think
Yeah.
that's why I think that's what offends me the most about it is like, do you think these women are stupid on both sides of the spectrum? Like, do you think they're quiet and silently obedient and going to do everything you say, and that's why you can just marry them easily and offer them
Yeah,
whatever
yeah.
and then just accept
That
it?
side, that
Or,
thinking is not correct. Yeah.
or
But
do you think
actually, but
also that
that
there's not
backfires.
conniving women out there?
That backfires exactly because they're more
Yeah,
likely to be conniving than innocent and naive and dumb, some people might be thinking.
they are women like any other woman in any part of the Muslim
But
world,
you know what it
and
is, bro? I'll
and
tell you
women here as
something.
well.
It's also a cultural thing, right? And this can get me in trouble, but I don't know. This is from my observation. Um, Arab culture versus Asian culture. Okay. In Arab culture, women are not the same as in Asian culture. What I have observed or heard is that Asian women are actually a lot more submissive and a lot quieter than Arab women, right? That's just how they're expected to be in their culture. So maybe these brothers, let's say they're from Asian backgrounds in the UK, they think that they're going to find someone who's as submissive as a woman from Pakistan, um, but from Morocco. But that's not the case generally, Yani, if we look
Well,
at what the
yeah, yeah.
society is like. A Moroccan woman would generally be a lot louder than a Pakistani woman, just in general, on average, Yani.
Yeah, it's the culture that they're thinking exists doesn't necessarily exist in the way they think it does.
Hmm.
Women are educated and they're capable and they are a lot more independent from men in North Africa, generally speaking,
Hmm.
than maybe in Asia. And that's there has been a narrative of feminism across North Africa that it may touch some women, it may not touch others, but it's not. What I would say is that women, from my understanding, um, especially younger women, are very much the same as women in the UK, Muslim women in the UK. Um, like the spectrum exists. The
Hmm.
same spectrum you'll find here is the same spectrum you'll find there, and that's just the way it is. But there is a shame culture, generally speaking. There is a shame culture when it comes to families, communities, etc. Like you mentioned about people dressing in a particular way or not dressing in a particular way. However, detaching those people from their family and from the shame culture and whatever, it's an
Yeah,
unpredictable
yeah, it is
cocktail when they come to
unpredictable.
England,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true.
And that's what you don't understand.
And that's the
Some people are
ironic
just dying
thing.
to get out.
That's the
Yeah,
ironic thing that you're looking for someone who's untainted, let's say, and then you're bringing them to the place to get tainted, right? Like the place that has tainted people, you're bringing them to it. What do you think that will
exactly.
happen?
Exactly. It's not the woman necessarily themselves that is always, that is exclusively good. It's the culture around her that makes her good. Same with men. It's the
Hmm.
culture around men that makes men good. Look
Yeah,
at men that are okay, look at North African men, right? Because the women are going to get angry. We talk about them. Let's talk
terrific,
about the men, right?
terrific people in North Africa. Great people. Trust me, folks.
uh, but men generally, yeah, it's the culture around them that makes them the shame culture or whatever. And look at how many North African men come to the West and just go nuts. They
Hmm.
just go wild,
Hmm.
right? North African men living in the villages, etc. Get away, jump on a boat, get on a rubber
Hmm.
dinghy, end up in the UK, and they're like what nightclubs every night. They're getting drunk. I'm not saying all North African men,
I think we're
obviously.
already
I'm
wild
saying that
before we get.
but they're doing things that they wouldn't necessarily have had access to
Yeah.
or the capacity to
Hmm.
where they came from,
Yeah.
you know, um, without like at least hiding it
Hmm.
if they were engaged in that kind of behavior, right?
Hmm.
And these are all generalities, and we're obviously making generalizations as we go along. But I think the lesson is Stay away from our people.
I didn't say that.
No,
I
no,
didn't
I'm
say that.
just saying. I'm saying, hey, it's not all. The grass isn't always greener. I think what I'm trying to say ultimately is like don't disregard what you already know. You know, you are much better off marrying somebody from your area, from a culture or a background or whatever that you understand. I get the whole narrative of like mixed marriages being something that we need to challenge the system and the status quo, and we need to have mixed marriages, and there's nothing wrong with that, and all that stuff. And that's a
Mm,
very 18-year-old mindset when it comes to like raising a family, when it comes to having kids, when it comes to like the longevity of your marriage. What you
mm.
know will go much farther than what you don't. What you
Yeah.
can prepare for and anticipate is a lot more beneficial, and it leaves a lot of brain space to actually focus on what's important instead of arguing about the little things that aren't necessarily gonna gel up
Mm.
together.
You know what, bro?
And
Like,
just
I just thought of
yeah,
something. You know, with the whole mixed marriage thing, the people who are, very into that and quite obsessed with that, it might not be that they particularly want to. They believe in the cause. I think what it is they want to escape the confines of any given culture or any
yeah,
cultural, expectations from any culture. And if they were to marry someone from another culture, that forces everybody then to compromise on their traditions because it's like, well, the other family is not from our culture, so we have to drop those traditions or those expectations. And now you kind of just maybe they're thinking that there'll be a lot more freedom, right? So I'm from a whatever Egyptian family. If I marry an Egyptian, now all those traditions and expectations of Egyptian culture are come upon us. But if I'm Egyptian and I marry a South Asian, neither of us like we can escape both of those things. Maybe that's what they're looking for. They're
yeah,
looking for that not having to
but rarely does
follow
it.
either thing. I'm not saying that's
Yeah,
good or bad, but I'm saying maybe actually that now that I think about it, that is their intention deep down. That's what they're trying to achieve with it.
yeah. I mean, each to their own, and obviously there's not a halal haram to it. This is just
Yeah, no, it's
you
like
know
obviously if you
dunyawi
genuinely
advice.
find somebody who seems like a good match and they happen to be from another background, obviously that's fine, there's no problem. But you're talking about the people who like just have their mindset on marrying someone from a different
Yeah,
background to them. Yeah,
yeah. Yeah, like I remember the discourse of people saying like, "I'm never marrying someone from my culture," as
yeah,
if like,
yeah.
okay, yeah, I'm never marrying a North African. Okay,
Mm,
great.
mm,
I don't know. It's
mm.
just it's weird. It's weird.
You know what
It's weird
else
to
is
me.
about Morocco? And I don't know where they get the money from, to be honest, because it's not like they have the big natural resources or anything. Yeah, I'm not sure, but they have, for example, the biggest port in Africa is near Tanja. What's it called?
Yeah.
Tanje Med or something. The biggest port in Africa. That's quite a thing. That's quite a thing. And they are exporting a lot of cars and manufacturing and exporting a lot of cars out of there.
Oh,
Also, the
yeah.
first this annoyed me as an Algerian. The first high speed train in Africa was in Morocco. The reason it annoyed me is because last time I was in Algeria 7 years ago, they were building high speed train, and apparently it's not done yet. 7 years, man. Um,
Well,
yeah. So
c'est
they,
la vie, ya صاحبي. C'est la vie.
yeah. So they got high speed
Shandero.
train from like Tanja to Casa, 2 hours instead of I think four
There you
hours in
go.
the car or something. So that's really good. You know
Right.
what they called the train as well? What do they call it again? They called it a Burak.
Yeah, it's amazing. I love that. You see what I mean? Like this is the thing, yeah. A lot of diaspora see Muslim countries or Morocco as an example, Algeria or whatever, just through their foreign policy.
Hmm.
Okay, so they'll make a judgment over a Muslim country just based on the foreign policy. What have they done for this country? What did they do when this happened? What they don't realize that there's a lot of work that goes on domestically that benefits the Muslims domestically, the people of their nation domestically, right?
Hmm.
Um, like Erdogan, for example. Let's take Erdogan in Turkey.
Hmm.
A lot of Muslims in England, they only judge him based on what he's going to do for the rest of the world, for the
Yeah.
rest of the ummah,
Not within
right?
Turkey. Yeah.
Not the domestic situation, generally speaking. There's no focus on that. When
Hmm.
actually that is his primary responsibility, generally speaking, right? And the same with
That wouldn't
Morocco.
be good,
Like,
actually. If you judge Erdogan on his domestic policy, let's say in terms of dawah and this and that, you might say, you might give him less points.
No, but sorry, the Dawah. Look, this is an issue. Like I think that people overstate the role of the state when it comes to the Deen, there in terms of like the Dawah, whatever. Well, the people should be doing that. Really, that's the priority. Generally speaking, governments are in charge of the day-to-day dunyui matters of the people because there's so much of it to take care of, whether it's like security or infrastructure or food or flipping
Mm.
agriculture, whatever you want to talk about. Like there's so much of it that 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 is the day-to-day of people that as long as there's freedom of religion, as you mentioned earlier,
Mm.
like being able to
Yeah.
actually organize things or whatever.
I mean, that's been the positive thing here is the freedom. But there is also
Yeah,
the awqaf, there is the Ministry of Islamic Affairs or whatever you want to call it.
yeah, 100%. Yeah, yeah,
And
of course.
like if you became the president or whatever of a country, what's the number one thing you wanted to do to benefit the people of the country? It's to increase their iman and their practice of Islam, wouldn't it be that, right?
Yeah, but they
So
can't do much of that without security, can they? You know?
obviously, I'm not saying
Yeah.
compromise one for the other, but anyway, you're right. So you were saying that people judge based on foreign policy.
No, yeah, of course. This is it. Like, and there is a lot going on where countries are getting better. In Muslim countries are generally uh, getting better for their own citizens, for their own Muslims that they're responsible for, so to speak. We can't understate that. We can't understate that. Tanja is, people are opening their eyes up to Tanja in the last 10 or 20 years or whatever. It wasn't necessarily on anyone's radar before. I mean, I know they had the airport, but as far as I know, I knew about it because I live close there, as in my family do. But now, only now, I've started hearing people that I know thinking that aren't Moroccan thinking, "Oh, I'd like to move to Tanjo. I like Tanjo. I really want to visit, etc." Before it was just like Marrakesh, and that's about it that people
Hmm.
knew about. No, we
Hmm.
digress. I have to go now. Generally speaking, I have to leave.
We will
I'm
end
glad you
and
have a
leave.
nice time.
Jazakallah khair.
I'll give you an honorary Moroccan passport. I don't have one yet, funnily enough. But
Inshallah soon.
I am
So
eligible for one. I just haven't done it.
yeah, yeah, go for it, bro. Number three. I'll just end with this, just to summarize, in terms of because I had this in my head. I just want to share it at least. So yeah, in terms of like infrastructure, services, the smoothness of processes and getting stuff done. If the UK is 100%, even though it's not, but let's just say as a baseline, that's 100, then Turkey would be 85 and Morocco would be 70. And then I'm guessing Algeria would be like 55. So that's how I would kind
Mm.
of rank it, if people want to compare. So, yes, um, great conversation. See you next week, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah.
Excellent. Warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I got